Hey there, broadcaster from GreatOptionTradingStrategies.com. So one of my favorite analogies for the stock market came from a local news story back in 2004 out on Lake Travis in the Austin, Texas area when a rented double-decker party barge started listing and then capsized as the craft neared Hippie Hollow, which is the clothing optional beach out on the lake. Yes, Austin has a nudist beach. Why not? Now, I remember reading the story back at the time, and the news article only mentioned the facts and left it up to the reader to connect the dots. The barge capsizing, no one drowning or dying, fortunately, the location of the incident, and the fact that all the reveling passengers had all moved to one side of the craft, the side closest to the shore. Gee, I wonder why they did that. Now, the funny thing is that Hippie Hollow is not some kind of nudist Baywatch utopia filled with the young and the beautiful. It's mostly just a bunch of fat old men. And the stock market, I find, is very much the same. Well, I'm not talking about the fat old men part, although that could be true too. Mostly I'm talking about when everyone is on the same side of the boat, and usually not for very noble or smart reasons. When everyone is thinking the same thing, when everyone is positioned the same way, when everyone is following the same playbook and patting themselves on the back for being so smart, it's time to get on the other side of the boat. Or better yet, it's time to get off the boat altogether. Now, I actually covered this last week in my daily option tips and insights newsletter, which you can sign up for from either the description section or the pinned comment below. But I think a video version would also be useful and insightful, and there were a couple of things I wanted to flesh out more. So we saw a perfect illustration of this last week with the implosion and forced liquidation of 24-year-old Leopold Aschenbrenner's rather ironically named Situational Awareness hedge fund. It's a total cautionary tale about overleveraging and riding extreme moves, and in both directions. Everyone thought the dude was an AI visionary, especially when his hedge fund ran up so enormously. Now, among other things, he not only rode the huge parabolic run in memory stocks like SanDisk and Micron, leveraged to the max, he arguably drove a lot of that run, directly and indirectly via his influence on other professional and retail traders. And he was also short software stocks, and also rode and ran them to extreme, oversold, unsustainably beaten down levels. In other words, his irrationality became Mr. Market's irrationality. And that move steamrolled over any traders who bet too early against further irrationality, either fading the parabolic overbought AI build-out names or scooping up beaten down software names that would still be pushed lower. But at some point, the rubber band couldn't be stretched any farther. And it doesn't look like he ever trimmed the winning positions or covered his short positions until he was forced to, at which point the whole thing had already started to unravel. And the questionable named Situational Awareness hedge fund's biggest holdings collapsed 35 to 40% in the course of a single month, while the software sector finally caught a bid. So his highly leveraged positions all started working against him at once. Okay, the obvious lesson that a lot of people are drawing here is the danger of leverage and the importance of risk management. And I'm not going to argue that that's wrong, but I have a different take on the situation. To me, and this is one of the worst things about the stock market, the situational awareness hedge fund implosion really underscores how much of your returns in the stock market depend on other people, or how your investments can be wrecked by other people. Just ask long-term software investors. I say this a lot, but when you buy stocks or options, you have to be right or else you're going to lose money. With stocks, you can afford a longer time frame, of course, so you don't have to be right away. But with options, it's pretty tough because you have to be right about three things: direction of a move, magnitude of a move, and timing. Get any one of those three things wrong and you're going to lose money. So what that really means is that at some level, you need a lot of other people making the same or similar bets after you've placed yours. Now, if you thread all three needles, you can set yourself for a really nice payday and probably a huge dopamine rush in the process. But still, I don't understand how anyone would want to play that game. Personally, I don't want to be James Bond in the stock market, playing some high-stakes poker game against Mr. Market, or finding myself in some crazy fight to the death. I want to play a game that's so rigged in my favor that I know I'm going to win before I even start playing around. Well, guess what? That's what option selling gives me. Heads I win, tails Mr. Market loses. If the option buyer has to be right about direction, magnitude, and timing, or else he or she's going to lose money, I can be wrong on all three, and I have been, and still come out ahead. Now, don't get me wrong, I want to be as right as I can be, because the more right I am, the better my returns, the easier the trade, and the smarter I look. Now, I mentioned direction. There is an important distinction between option buyers and option sellers when it comes to direction. The option buyer has to 100% be right about direction. But the option seller's relationship direction is much more subtle. If I sell a put, then yes, I'd much rather the stock trade higher than lower. But but I'm not predicting or betting that it will. I'm just betting that it won't trade below my strike price in the near term. That's a hugely important distinction between the game that option buyers are playing and the game that option sellers are playing. Option buyers are predicting what a stock will do within a certain time frame. Option sellers, however, are predicting what a stock won't do. And that's a hell of a lot easier. And then throw in the fact that option sellers don't even have to be right about that, and they can still make money. And more importantly, avoid losing it. Case in point, I put together a video last year detailing 4 put selling trades, which also could have been set up as covered calls, that we closed inside the Leveraged Investing Club where the underlying stocks fell 35 to 50% on us at the low point, and yet we still made money on all 4 of them. 3 of which generated double-digit annualized returns, and 1 of which almost clocked a 20% annualized ROI. And it wasn't a case of a V-shaped recovery. By definition, the stocks had to stop trading lower and at least rebound some for us to repair them, but only 1 of them fully came back for us, which we didn't need it to do, by the way. The other 3 were still all trading significantly below where they had been trading when we first entered the trade. And again, we not only avoided losses, we still made good to even very good returns. Do you know what a luxury that is? To control your own destiny, to not be dependent on other people in the stock market. In fact, I would go even further. Your best defense against Mr. Market and all the idiots and maniacs and zombies and sociopaths and borderline criminals, and sometimes there's no borderline about it. Your best defense against all that is to make sure you're the savviest option seller that you possibly can be. And a big part of that savviness is learning to manage and repair your trades at a very proficient level. Now, inside the Leveraged Investing Club, we have a very specific and well-honed over the years trade management repair process called the 4-stage trade repair formula that enables us to fix just about anything that Mr. Market and the hordes of maniacs in the market can throw at us. Case in point, and I've added links to the trading history in the description section, but in 2025, all 46 official club trades we closed were winners. And so far in 2026, we're 26 for 26. And 93.06% of these trades, or 67 of the 72, resulted in either double-digit or triple-digit annualized returns. Okay, if you enjoyed this and want more, be sure to check out the channel's other videos and playlists. And if you haven't already, really consider subscribing and sharing this with others who you think might benefit. We broke through the 1,500 subscriber milestone with the last video, and I'd really love to see how quickly we can hit 2,000. The heads we win tells Mr. Market loses approach is a very contrarian message that I wish more traders knew about. The sad fact is that a lot of traders, and not just newer traders, don't truly realize what's possible. Because there's just so much noise out there and conventional wisdom and mechanical trading approaches. And of course, the stock market is more casino every day. And that's a trend that will continue until it all comes crashing down. Now, I'm not a perma bear and I don't see anything imminent, and it's a conversation for another day, but we all know how this story ends. Or at least some of us do. Even better, make sure you're signed up for the daily option tips and insights newsletter. The newsletter complements the YouTube channel very nicely, as some topics are better suited in article format and some are better suited in video format. And I can put out a lot more articles per week than I can videos. There's also a number of perks to being a daily tips reader, including actual tips and insights, me sharing trade ideas on occasion, in-depth exclusive content, which I call secret seminars, and consultations with me regarding any of your problem trades. And yes, all this is free. You can sign up directly in the description section or the pinned comment below, or you can also download any of the ebooks, strategy guides, special reports, or case studies from the growing Great Option Trading Strategies downloadable library page, and you'll begin receiving the daily tips newsletter for free. I also love reading your comments and answering any questions, so feel free to fire away. Okay, until next time.